Hey guys, Jeff from Renovision here, and today we are doing a great informational video about how to stay on budget when you renovate. It's a very difficult thing to do, so I'm giving you all of my information that we put in a live show. We're going to bring it to you, and on the other end of the live show, I'm just going to summarize a couple of tips for you that I should have added to the show, and hope you enjoy the information. So these tips are like renovation tips, so you don't break the bank, so you can stay on budget, right? That's really the goal, because in most homes, most people, and can we just talk to normal people? Like, leave the millionaires alone, right? They can always just go sell one of the cars in the garage that they have no need for if they want to finish a renovation. But most of us, when we do a renovation, we're kind of stuck. We have a limited amount of resources available for the reno. Usually we've been saving up for a while, and we finally get to the project, and it is always a really traumatic situation to get near the end of a project or to start something, make a room completely unusable, and get that bad news, right? The HGTV report. Oh, I'm sorry, we just can't do it because we ran into this problem. You know my opinion. If you've seen all my stuff, I say BS. If you start a renovation and you're a professional, you know exactly what the problems you're going to run into are. You know exactly where you're going to have to spend your money. I run into a surprise that makes me go back to a client back in the old days, 1 out of 100 jobs. Okay? Just saying that to set expectations. Every time you have a contractor, they feel like they got a license to tell you they have a surprise because of TV. The reality is they know exactly what they're going to find when they open it up. There's nothing new under the sun, okay? Unless it's a DIY absolute disaster that was buried, there's no reason to believe that a contractor has been stumped and ran into a big upsetting moment, okay? So don't buy their garbage. Now, on this channel, we do DIY renovations. Sometimes we talk about doing it all yourself, do half and half, or we just teach you tips to hire a good contractor, but know the process so you don't get taken. Today, we're going to blend all that. We're just going to give a bunch of great information. So tip number 1 to renovating and staying on budget is to have one. Not just have a budget, and don't say, hey, I've got $10,000 in the bank, what can you do for me? You need to understand one other thing, and that is, what is that renovation you're planning on doing going to do to the value of your home? Okay? Because if you're going to renovate a bathroom, let's say for 10 grand, and you have a functional bathroom, and 10 grand allows you to put a functional bathroom back because you're going to be hiring a plumber and electrician, or maybe even a tile set, you're not going to get much more return out of that bathroom than simply updating it. And you might be surprised that maybe the best answer for you is to take a look at the real estate situation you're in. Maybe you got to wait another 6 months so that you can put $12,000 to $15,000 in. Just throwing money at a problem doesn't solve it. You can ask any government in the world. It's not always just an answer. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. But if you can't afford to renovate, you don't have the budget to renovate properly, maybe take a look at taking a real small percentage of that money and doing a remodel to buy you a couple more years. Sometimes a quick paint job over tile, tub, floors, walls, ceiling, cabinets, countertops, all of that stuff. A quick paint job can buy you a clean, functional space that can be maintained for a couple years while you continue to save, so you can get the impact and the value out of that whole process, so that you don't just replace it with something that's similar but newer. You replace it with something that adds value to the home. All right? We'll just leave it there. Next thing is, tip for renovating so you can stay on budget, is don't change the plan. And I've told you this, guys, before. Having a plan and sticking to it is the key to success. You really want to make sure that every time someone says, and here's the classic example, right? You do the demo, you start putting things back, you get all your mechanical run, and then somebody sees something on TV or in a magazine or in a Pinterest or an Instagram post, and that question is, do you think we could just... No, there's no such thing as just. Right? When you're doing a renovation, all these little ideas, unless it's making the project simpler and reducing the scope of work, don't entertain them, okay? It'll make you drag things out, do things twice, go backwards in your construction process. And there's usually a lot of planning that goes into having a good plan and making changes. And in most cases, you'll miss one of the nuances or one of the details that affects something else. Classic example, you've got a 5-foot section of wall and you buy a 5-foot cabinet, thinking, I'm going to go wall-to-wall cabinet. You go to Home Depot, you buy the cabinet, it comes with a countertop and sinks and everything, right? You get home to find out that the sink is 61 inches wide, not 60 inches wide. But it's a 5-foot cabinet. But it was designed to be on a wall, not in an alcove. So you've got to pay close attention to the details of every situation. And when you make changes, you don't have time for details. You'll run into problems. All right. Here we go. Okay. Next thing, after you've got a good budget and a good plan, you don't change the plan. I want you to think functionality over being design focused. Most people who watch our show, not everybody, but most people are not millionaires, right? And you need to make practical decisions. And if you can afford to have fun, then do it. But you got to make sure that you start with all the most expensive decisions first, work your way down to the ones that don't cost as much money. And then if you have budget left over, then you can maybe make some fixture allowance changes and upgrade your sink or your tile. But you've really got to be practical about your approach, all right? There's a law in design. What one person loves, another person hates, right? I mean, you guys remember the video? We did those octagon tiles. We did tile over tile video. Half of the comments on the channel were, I can't stand the tile. Now, I don't care because we didn't buy the tile for everybody. We bought the tile for that client. But the truth is, if you get all design focused and you spend your money on design elements, you're going to end up building something that very few people are really going to want to buy, right? So stay neutral. Stay with natural materials. Stay with natural looking stone, even if it's fake ceramic or porcelain. Have it look like marble or travertine or slate or granite. Think about these concepts because naturally existing materials never go out of style, okay? Is that someone trying to call in on the show? Oh, man, just hang up the phone and yank the guts out of that sucker. All right, let's get back to the whole thing here. Tip number 4 for saving a ton of money when you're renovating and staying on budget is to reuse and repurpose. This is not something we've really talked about before, but if you go on our Reality Renovision channel, which I'm going to suggest you join, we have the brand new season starting on Friday coming up. We're going to be doing our kitchen renovation there. In that channel, we did a video where we renovated a 1905 semi-detached. And what we did in that house, because we had budget issues with constraints, we actually took out all the hardwood floor in that house. We removed it, cleaned it all up, removed all the nails, changed the floor plan, removed interior walls, okay? Used tile in the kitchen instead of the hardwood, and that left us with enough material that we actually reinstalled all the hardwood in the entire main floor of that house. It was existing hardwood. Yeah. Once we leveled and rebuilt the house, we put all the hardwood back, and then we refinished the floor. It came out with a great result. It was probably about 6 hours of work to clean up the wood and take out all the nails. But you know, at the end of the day, you're going to remove it anyway. Take a little bit of care, right? Remove it from the tongue side and always peel it straight back. And the wood was in great shape. We reinstalled and we repurposed that wood. There's nothing wrong with it, but old houses have a habit of being squeaky, so screw down your subfloor, use proper cleat nails when you reinstall your hardwood, and you'll get another 100 years out of it. That is money in the bank. Welcome, Aisha, Joseph, to Money in the Bank on the membership program. There you go. Okay, Aisha, all the new members, if you guys want to know how to do this, membership with YouTube is kind of interesting. Once you join, we do not automatically send you an email or anything like that. I wish we had that kind of automatic response, but we don't have that available from YouTube yet. So you have to go to the home page, click the community tab once you become a member, and then you can scroll through the posts. You'll see members only posts, and in one of those posts will be information about how you can interact with us on the forum, the access code so you can get in on that action, and you can bring us your questions and we can help you out there. And you can talk to other members in the community, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And so welcome aboard. Now, next thing. Oh, this is really cool. One of the greatest ways you can stay on budget is keep your site clean, right? Bottom line, when you're renovating, you only have so much time available. And in a lot of cases, you're using your weekends or your evenings, or you've taken a period of time off work. You've got to get the project done. And if you don't have a clean site, you're going to be moving a lot slower. Now, there are all kinds of studies and psychological tests out there, and I'll tell you straight up, my own experience. If you wake up in the morning and you go down to, let's call it a bathroom, and you're going to renovate, and it's still messy from the night before, the first thing you do is go get a coffee, make breakfast, and procrastinate. Because the last thing you want to do is clean up a mess before you get started. All right, can I get an amen? Bottom line, guys, if you clean up at the end of the day, take that 10 minutes, power through. I know it's probably 9:30 at night because you're trying to get the work done. Power through, clean up the site so that when you get going the next day, it's clean, it's organized, you feel refreshed, and you're ready to roll. You don't want to have to go backwards to move forwards. That just sucks the life out of you, especially if you're tired. A lot of you guys are renovating and holding jobs and have families. You just don't have the gas in the tank to be able to deal with that mental stress in the morning, okay? So, yeah, there you go. Amen. I know. It's just the way it is. Next thing that will save you time and keep you on budget. And the reason you put that in the list is because if you're not motivated at your project, you're not moving fast. What you thought was going to take you 5 days takes 2 weeks. Yeah. And then what happens? There's stress in the house. When am I going to get my bathroom working? Right? You're feeling the stress. Your spouse is feeling stress. The kids are feeling the stress. Hell, even the dog is feeling stress at that point. Don't do that to yourself, all right? Push through and clean up. All right. Oh. All right. Guys, I love reading these comments. They just make me laugh. I mean, sometimes all you got to do is put in a video and just go to the comment section. Enough said, you know? Like, awesome, guys. The next one is in the same line. Keep your tools and materials organized, okay? One of the greatest ways to stay on time and on budget is having everything organized. And if you don't have space, rent temporary space. I'm telling you straight up. Rent a porta potty if you need to. Rent a pod. Put it in your driveway. Keep your tools and materials all on site and organized. Get your appliances and furniture the heck out of the way, all right? Have a great big open space to work. Having that freedom to just put on the belt and put your head down and go to work gets things done. That's production. Every time you go and you're like, well, I got to work on this wall today, so I got to move these 20 sheets of drywall. There's 2 appliances in front of it, and then there's dirt everywhere, and next thing you know, you're sneezing because the dust is, and I need my mask, and it's just a lousy way to start the day, all right? Next thing you can do, guys, to keep on renovation budget is hire help when you're outside your toolbox. Now, this isn't big and popular on a DIY show, but if you're going to do plumbing or electrical and you're not comfortable with it, especially roughing, like the stuff that goes behind the wall or under the floor, and you're not really used to the process, you haven't done enough plumbing to cause a flood to know better yet, do you really want to take on that kind of risk? Because if you cause a flood that causes $3,000 or $5,000 worth of damage, A, you got to fix that, and that changes your timeline. B, that's not an insurance claim because most people have a $3,000 or $5,000 deductible on their insurance, so that's money away from your project. And C, most of us don't have an extra $3,000 or $5,000 laying around to solve that problem. Sometimes it's easier to spend $1,000, include it in your budget, get a professional in, let them spend the day and do it right, and have a warranty on their work. Just saying. We're all learning, and so when you're learning, if you're in over your head, recognize it, right? Swim back to the surface and make a phone call, all right? Do yourself a favor because there are a lot of ways to destroy a home with electrical and water that you haven't even thought of in your worst nightmare yet, especially if you haven't done a lot of this work before. I was on a project. I'll tell a quick story. I was on a project, and we were doing a 3-story row house downtown. And we hired plumbers and electricians, and the plumbers ran the plumbing up to a vanity and then teed off and went through the joists, but they didn't put protection plates over the studs, okay? And so when they mounted the wall mount vanity, they put a screw right through the water line. Now, when you put a screw through a water line, it doesn't leak right away. So this was on a Friday. Everybody goes home. We come back on Monday. Well, what do you think you found? Yeah, Niagara Falls inside the building. Every floor was soaking wet. Every ceiling had collapsed. Everything was destroyed. All the work was garbage because somebody put a 3-cent screw through a $3 stud and into a 5-cent piece of pipe because they didn't spend 10 cents on the metal plate, and it caused about $10,000 worth of damage. Think about it. You just don't know what you don't know until you've been there and done that. So if you're in over your head, having some stability with your budget and knowing where your costs are and having someone that you can call up and say, hey, you messed this up, come fix it, that's important, okay? Because any contractor who works in your home should have liability insurance for when they screw up, and the insurance company pays for the repairs, all right? Not you. And that is money in the bank. Done. Next tip, do inspections before you start. Open up a wall, right? Take the picture off the wall, cut out a piece of drywall and say, hey, what do we see here? I got HVAC, I got plumbing. Oh my God, what's this chimney? You can't remove a wall if you've got the chimney and that's the exhaust being used by the hot water tank. You might find surprises before you even start. So by doing a little inspection, it's only drywall, cut it, open up a ceiling, know what's going on. Don't get started on a major project until you know exactly how and where all the mechanical is running, okay? Because that's called unforeseen, because you never took time to inspect. It's just drywall. You can always patch it. If you find out you're in over your head and you can't move forward with your project till next year, you can always patch the hole. That's $100, right? So doing inspections and knowing exactly what you're going to find before you start is really, really super important. Go into the basement, go into the attic, know how things are going. Hey, Mary, how you doing tonight? Good to see you back. Oh, yes. Okay. Now, next, build a timeline. All right. One of the greatest ways you can stay on schedule, which means on budget, because if you go over schedule, you're wasting time, right? Time that maybe you don't have, time you took off work. You might have the money in your budget to spend longer on a project, but don't forget about your relationship capital, right? Time with the wife and the kids. Even the dog will start looking at you funny if you take too long away, right? So think about these things. If you set up a schedule and say, this is my start date, this is my finish date, this is how much work I've got to do every day. And at 4 o'clock, you can say, okay, I'm not going to get done here till 8 o'clock. But if I don't, and tomorrow I don't get it all done until 8 o'clock, and I keep leaving the job at 4, what ends up happening is you end up from 6 to 10 weeks. And that can be devastating. So be realistic. Try to time it out and lay out a timeline based on what you think you can actually accomplish, and then double it, especially if you're inexperienced, okay? It'll take twice as long as you think. And then you have a realistic timeline so you can consider, should I get some extra help on certain tasks? Because timelines can affect your budget too, all right? Next, consider this. When you're going to renovate and you're working with a budget, repair things instead of replacing them, right? Or refinish them instead of replacing them. It's a thought. It's a question you should ask yourself at every step of the way, because there are a lot of things out there that they might look ugly, or they might not function the way you want them to, or there might be damage, but you can be repaired instead of replaced. And it's not something you actually see very often. No one ever really talks about it. But there's a lot of really good quality materials being thrown in the garbage all the time that could have just been fixed up. So it might be worth taking a look at. Ask yourself the question anyway, because even if it's just a vanity, even if it's just like, I could have fixed that instead of throwing it out, you might be surprised when you start shopping for vanities. It's like, wow, that's an $800 to $1,000 savings. Maybe it's worth fixing it up, right? Okay, one way that you can help stay on budget is just change your hardware. A lot of times there's nothing really wrong with what's going on around you. It's just outdated. So changing hardware can make a world of difference. And of course, paint. Those are the next 5 suggestions. And not just painting, but let me just put it this way. If you're not ready to renovate or your budget's tight, okay? You don't have a buffer. You don't have a contingency zone. maybe the best plan for you is to just paint everything and buy 2 more years. Think about it. You can paint a tub. You can paint tile. You can paint a floor. You can paint countertops. You can paint cabinets. You can paint the walls. You can paint the ceiling. You can paint just about anything, the doors and the trim. Maybe the best option is to put the brakes on the reno project until you're ready to do it, so it doesn't put you in a place where you're going to be all stressed out. Say, we can renovate next year, but this year I'm going to put $200 into painting, put a week into painting. I'm going to paint everything up, make it clean, make it functional, and I'll be good with that for another year. Maybe next year is the best year to renovate, not this one. Just saying, paint, 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 paint. You can do a lot with paint. It even increases the value of your house, just painting everything. So don't be shy, right? Learn how to use that brush. Make it an extension of your hand. All right? And then 2 more. I got 2 more tips, and then we'll just jump into the questions. So if you got questions, start getting prepped. We're almost there. The next tip is only let one person touch the cash. Do not say, okay, baby, you're off to go and buy this and this and this, and I'm off to buy this and this and this, because inevitably what happens is you both say, well, I can spend a little bit more money. We'll be fine. And then when you both spend a little bit more money, now your budget's shot. Shop together, all right? Make decisions together. You can spend more in one place if you agree to spend less in another, but if you're shopping individually, you're just in deep trouble. Okay. And then last tip for staying on budget, pay cash. Yes. Yeah. And so half of you are thinking, you mean like cash to the contractor? No, I mean pay cash as you go. If you can't afford to renovate, don't take on a credit position to do it unless you're going to sell the house and get your money back. Okay? If you can't afford to pay for the renovation right now, don't use credit because it ends up being 20 to 30% more expensive. You'll never get that return on investment. It's a waste of time. So, if you can't afford it, renovate it. On credit is fine, but make sure you're selling the house. If you can't sell it and you just got to renovate, maybe consider remodeling. We've got a ton of tips and tricks to help you to remodel and repair and do fixes on your house to buy time on your house. So if you're stuck and you're like, I can't afford to renovate, I don't want to just remodel, I got this broken, I got that broken, you can always join the membership program, put your questions in the forum, and I can help you to navigate how to buy an extra couple years out of a broke down old house. All right, well, I only really have one more thing to add, but I think it's really crucial information. But before I do that, if you like information like this, give our video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And for Pete's sake, hit the bell for notifications. Set it up so you're notified every time a video comes out. All right, that's usually about twice a week. Shouldn't be too much. Anyway, let's get back into this because the one thing I think everybody always forgets is we're so bombarded in the industry with emotionally based information. Oh, I love it. The big reveal, the dramatic moment. Renovating is not emotional. It's practical. And if you're on my channel, it's because you're practical. You need to be practical. Now, if you've got no budget and you want to be emotional and make every decision based on how you feel when you wake up in the morning, that's fine. Spend all your money. But if you're like us and most people, we can't afford to do that. So we got to stay practical. Every time you make a decision, be practical, okay? And you will find that it'll save you a ton of money. And you're going to be just as happy at the end of the process as if you were by letting your emotions guide you through the whole process. It's not a diss against anybody, but emotions make changes and changes cost money. All right? Cheers. Now listen, if you want to see another video that we did probably about a year ago, we talk about the real cost of renovating. It was in the middle of my kitchen renovation, and we'll put the link over here. You can go check that out. This will give you some great information to help you set your budget.